I don't know about at your house, but around here, a lot of competition starts when people start talking about their chili recipes. Everybody seems to be the best. Last year we did a story where 4 of our editors made their favorite recipes, and this was one of them. It's a white bean and hominy chili, and the secret ingredient, rosemary. I'm gonna show you how to make it. Start by chopping 1 large onion. This is a white onion, but if you can't find a white onion or you don't have a white onion on hand and you have a yellow onion, just go ahead and use that. I don't think it matters that much. The unusual thing about this recipe, of course, is the rosemary in it, which is not a common ingredient in chili, and you wouldn't necessarily think of combining it with cumin, which is the main flavoring ingredient in many chilies. It's actually pretty unique and unusual, and you might want to try it just for a change. I'm gonna cook this. It's in a large Dutch oven. 3 tablespoons of neutral oil, like safflower or canola oil. Just heat that in your pan, and then add the onions. You wanna get them cooking before you start anything else. I had my pan preheating, which is why it's sizzling so much. It's always a good idea to have your pan hot before you add your onions. The onions need to just soften and get a little bit translucent, and while that's happening, to ABP, I'm gonna cut up my garlic in serranos. You'll need 3 cloves of garlic. These are kind of little, so maybe I'll use 4. I mean, this garlic clove is so tiny. I mean, would you call that a garlic clove? Look how tiny that is. I mean, I'm telling you, if you use this as a garlic clove and then you tell me that your food had no flavor, don't go blaming me. So as you can see, even though the recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic, I'm using 5, which probably isn't even enough, but that's all right. Serrano chilies, 1 or 2. I think I'm gonna use 1, but I'm not gonna remove the seeds because I like it spicy, so that's how I'm gonna accomplish that. You'll notice I'm not wearing gloves. That probably wasn't very smart of me. Oh well. Oh well, too late now. Gotta live with the decisions that you make, and sometimes they're not the right decision. 4 teaspoons of rosemary, fresh rosemary, minced. I would not recommend using dried rosemary for this dish, so if you don't have fresh, leave it out. 4 teaspoons is just over a tablespoon. It's a tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon. You know, I don't normally measure fresh herbs, but rosemary is very strong. You can easily overwhelm a dish with it. So I'm actually gonna measure this time. You need a tablespoon plus a teaspoon, 4 teaspoons. So good. It's almost exactly the right amount. That can be added to your onions. Add these to your onions, and then you want to cook it till it's fragrant. You can add the spices now too. Cumin. Cumin's another spice that's very important to cook out before you add liquids or meat or anything like that to it. Otherwise it has a very raw flavor, but toasted, really well-cooked cumin is quite delicious. 1.5 teaspoons, 1 teaspoon of dry oregano, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. 2 kinds of chilies in this dish, fresh and dried. Stir them around. This just cooks just until it's fragrant. You can season your onion mixture at this point too. A little bit of salt. It's starting to smell good. I love the smell of a toasting spice. What about you? Add your ground turkey to this. Oops, don't add that. That's not edible. And you just want to cook it, breaking it up with a spoon until it turns okay. This could take up to 5 minutes, but it might take less. Give the meat 1 more stir, or 2 more stirs. Cooking is not an exact science. 1, 2, you know, whatever it takes to get to that opaque stage. Stop. Then add your beans and hominy. And this doesn't cook for very long. It cooks for about 25 minutes. 5 cups of chicken broth, the low sodium kind, please, or homemade. And stir it together. Now that it's at a boil, just turn it down, cover it partially, and cook it for about 25 minutes. Everything will cook together, the flavors will meld. After 25 minutes of simmering, it should have reduced just slightly, and then you're gonna add 3 tablespoons of cornmeal to thicken the liquid that is in there, so it's gonna be nice and rich and kind of unctuous. This is 3 tablespoons of fine cornmeal. It's yellow cornmeal. You could use white cornmeal too. I bet you could use instant polenta. I mean, there is rosemary in there, so go ahead and use instant polenta. It's like a hybrid Italian Southwest chili. And I don't mean the southwest of Italy either. Let this simmer for about 15 minutes just to thicken slightly, and while that's simmering, you can get your garnishes ready. You can ABP. I just have some radishes and scallions here. They get sliced up. 2 scallions, 3 scallions, whatevs. Slice up your radishes. Does anybody know if the plural of radish is radi? Come on, have a little fun. Now we're ready to serve, and I believe that my stew will have thickened. Let's see. Oh my gosh, this looks good. Holy camole. In fact, it's totally done, and I ignored it for like a second too long. It's starting to stick to the bottom. So make sure you stir it a little more frequently than I did. We were having such a good time that I forgot to check on my stew. It looks fantastic. It's nicely thickened. It smells really good. Let's see what it tastes like. I believe it's time to serve. This looks really good, really nice and thickened up from that cornmeal. It makes such a huge difference. And then garnish it up to your liking. A little bit of scallion, some red-eye, some radishes, some sour cream if that's to your liking. I know people like sour cream. That's up to you. Serve it up. Maybe enter it in your next friendly chili competition and see who wins. I think it's gonna be you. That is hearty.